Caleb, I'd love to hear how was prayer for you? And then I can kind of talk about that. What the way I thought about it and still kind of think about it.
Yeah, well, so like I mentioned a couple of weeks ago when I shared my story, I grew up in very different variations of or expressions of evangelical Christianity. And so I'd say for the first part of my life, I really viewed prayer as a more of like a discipline, spend this amount of time every day praying for the things that are on your prayer list. And whether that's like a card or you have a list, different people had different ways of doing that. But there were always these regular things that you kind of wanted to keep in mind in praying for every day. Like you hear all the time, like, hey, add so-and-so to your prayer list, or be praying for this person or this situation, And so you you felt this obligation to keep a record of things that you needed to be praying for. So like I had this card in my Bible that I use as a bookmark, and it had a list of things that I wanted to pray for every day. And when I would read through my Bible, I would just take a minute with that bookmark, and it would remind me every day to pray for those things.
Yeah. Which isn't a bad thing.
No, it's not. It's a good thing. And we, that's one of the things though, that it's weird to carry that forward when you have kind of been taught to believe that this list kind of feels like a shopping list in a way, or like a Santa Claus list. And so when you're trying to see prayer in a different way than that's what can be hard about bringing it forward. But I think there is something good about having a rhythm and certain things that we are constantly bringing to light or bringing to the surface to address or to contemplate and think about. Yeah. And then I guess when I got to college and I was, I went through my super charismatic phase, prayer became much more of an active, supernatural kind of thing. There was an emphasis placed on words and what we say and how that impacts things in the supernatural realm. And I mean, even that too, like there is something too about speaking things that I think we can carry forward as well. But it's not as, I think the negative side of it was the way that it was kind of used to manipulate situations, or like we wanted to gain control over a situation or how something was being handled. And so it was more of like, I'm going to pray and prophesy these things so that this situation or this person will change,
Yeah. And I've seen with that kind of thing, sometimes it seems like that puts a lot of emphasis on the person.
Yeah, exactly.
And it kind of sometimes
you're not praying hard enough.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I don't know. I've always struggled with that perspective. But I think like it's just kind of, it becomes like you mentioned, a shopping list in a way. But on the flip side of that, like there is something about like how it can affect your empathy and compassion when you do an intercessory prayer for others and things like that. So I think that stuff is also helpful as well.
Yeah, it keeps your heart soft, and it keeps you in a place of understanding that there's suffering going on around you and in other people's lives, that when you have that practice of going back to that every day, it does sort of put in perspective the things that you're struggling with too. It kind of gives you some sort of solidarity with people, like, and helps you feel less of the center of the world. Like my problems are everyone else's problems and the only ones that should count. When you have that practice of going, of reminding yourselves of things that are going on in the world and ways that other people are really struggling, it does kind of keep your heart soft. And that's the benefit of having this regular practice of prayer. Yeah. It just needs to be, we're just trying to figure out a way to keep it intentional and not let it become.
It's hard because like the way in which prayer, I think I viewed it was like making something happen.
Yes.
Rather than it shaping me.
And convincing God to do something.
And so I think that was kind of something that I struggled with a lot of times.
Yeah. I'm thinking of this story now. I was in Italy one summer, and I was serving at our conference center, and the grass had grown like a lot because the center had been closed all winter. And I've always had really bad allergies, and just the smell of cutting grass can send me into bed for days. But I was the only one at the center that could cut the grass for the group that was coming that weekend. And I'm in the mindset of, okay, we'll just sacrifice and serve. And, you've got to lay yourself down. God will protect you and stuff like that. And I remember like I was wearing a mask. I was wearing a like plastic shield and everything. And the whole time I'm cutting the grass, I'm like, Lord, like, just please protect me, like trying to convince him to just not make me sick, because I had so much to do in preparation for camp and stuff. And I just had this moment in the middle of like 15 minutes of, trying to convince God to just protect me from my allergies, where I realized, wait, this is weird. Why does prayer feel like I have to convince someone who supposedly loves me and wants my best? Why do I feel like I'm trying so hard to, make him do something? And why am I talking to him like this? It should be something that's more natural from a place of trust. And I think the rest of that time cutting grass, I actually was just like, okay, this is a weird story.
No, that's funny how this is.
Do you know where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I never know where you're going, so I just listen and observe. So, but I think you make valid points.
Yeah, like I noticed how hard I was trying to make God see my point of view and understand me, when I just came to a place where I'm like, okay, you know what? He does already understand me. He already does want good in this situation. I don't have to try so hard to make this happen,
Yeah, so I feel like a lot of times, like, that prayer and it does say in the scriptures, like, make your requests known to God.
Yeah.
So it's like, how do you have this balance of, like, God is not a genie, right? But also, like, you do, like, kind of open your life to prayer and making requests known and praying for others. And then, like, what I have struggled with a lot in prayer is, like, what do I do when, like, horrible things happen to people? Like, that's where I struggle with, is like, I see people praying for others, and it's prayer out of love. And then, like, when God doesn't, quote unquote, I'm not saying this is how it is, but doesn't answer those prayers in the eyes of, like, logic, it kind of just, I've struggled with that at times. So, and so what I think that for me, I have to think through the lens of, like, how can prayer be something that shapes me rather than it be something where I'm expecting something to happen, or I'm expecting God to make something different. And so that's where I've struggled, but, like, I've had to think through, that's where I've found, like, examine prayers. Those are helpful, like, thinking through, like, and it's just reflection. Like, and I think that for me, and maybe for you as a listener, like, if you're in the same boat as I am, where you've been like, okay, like, I don't see prayer as something that is useful, because all it seems like is I'm asking for something and then nothing's happening in return. But what if prayer is more like reflecting, like a reflection and shaping us? And I think that, like I said, I do see in scriptures where when it talks about prayer, make your requests known to God, pray for others, and things like that. And I think those things are necessary. But what if it is about, like, when you see someone hurting or in pain, like, it's more about shaping your love for them than seeing something change or happen. I know that's kind of weird I don't know. That's the way in which I've had to think about it lately.
Yeah. I mean, I think when I have felt connected in prayer, it has been definitely something that is interior. It's not been something that's just a hollow practice or something that I just need to do every day. And it's been more transforming and more impacting to me when I have allowed it or gone into prayer without a sort of agenda